Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, we've had so many conversations about Dansby Swanson leaving the void with his team. But I think the answer is who's coming back.
And at home in New Orleans, we say talk that stuff, now roll with it. But the Hawks just did some talking.
And last but not least, for the culture, another local business is on a HBCU campus. We'll talk about all that next right here on ATL Day Ones.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
First, we want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And why don't you go ahead and visit fanduel.com/locked-on to get started. Now, T, one of the things that we've talked about, we've had plenty of conversations about who's going to fill that void for Dansby Swanson at the shortstop position. And also, not only at the shortstop position, because we've got a good feeling that Vaughn Grissom is going to pretty much take over that position. And if not, they have somebody in Orlando Arcia that can fill that void. But we're talking about from a locker room standpoint or clubhouse standpoint in baseball, if I can use a baseball term. I think one of the things that I think is really key and people need to really focus in on is the fact that Ronald Acuna, coming off the torn ACL, coming back last year, I think he's going to be fully healthy. And his partner in crime, Ozzie Albies, had a broke left foot, and when he came back, he ended up breaking his pinky. With those two back in that clubhouse tee, fully healthy and having fun playing baseball, I think they're going to do more than enough to fill that void that Dansby Swanson left.
Yeah, and I think you have to define the void
Yeah.
because the void that is on the field obviously is either Grissom or Arcia. But
Right.
the void that's off the field in the clubhouse, if you will, or the dugout, to me, that's Ozzie Albies
Yeah.
because Ozzie
Mhm.
is kind of your heart and your soul of your team. He's the
Yes.
one that is outspoken. I can remember going into the locker room when covering the Braves, and he was always the guy that if it wasn't if it wasn't Freddie Freeman, rather, it wasn't here
Mm.
during the Chipper Jones days, Freddie Freeman,
Uh-huh.
if it wasn't him speaking, then typically it was going to be Dansby. And then if it wasn't Dansby, it was Ozzie. So I'm actually going to lean a little bit more with Ozzie. I think Ronald Acuna Jr. will lead by example on the field. I think on the
Right.
baseball field, but I think Ozzie Albies is going to be your guy.
Yeah, and when you think because those guys, they are so close and they've always been very open about their relationship and Ozzy has been the guy that has been championing Ronald Acuna. He's like, hey, this guy's gonna be better than the 2019 Ronald Acuna. He was quoting and saying that, and
Mm-hmm.
if we're getting better than 2019. Talking about a rookie of the year type situation
Yeah.
when Ronald Acuna came on the scene, he was tearing the cover off the ball, and we've talked about it plenty of times, and I've wholeheartedly believed this. I really believe that Ronald Acuna is going to be a guy that is going to go back to MVP form. I
Mm-hmm.
wholeheartedly believe that. Now, speaking of getting back to form, like there are some other guys that didn't necessarily have the greatest of seasons, right? When you're talking about Acuna, Albies, Eddie
Mm-hmm.
Rosario, Mike Soroka, coming off a torn Achilles
Mm-hmm.
twice torn
Mm-hmm.
Achilles,
Yeah.
like who do you feel like needs to have the biggest bounce back for the Braves?
That's a great question. And I'm going to still stick with my guy, Ozzie
Okay.
Albies. I
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
he's the guy
Yeah.
because Ronald Acuna Jr. to me is almost like a foregone conclusion. So, and I don't
Yeah,
want to
that's
overlook it.
happening.
Yeah, exactly. There it is.
That's happening.
That's happening. So if I go past the obvious guy of that's happening, I got to go with Ozzie because I also feel like he's going to be short up. When you're there right there at second base and shortstop, it's almost like you are a bridge, right? Between
Right.
the outfield, you're technically the infield, of course, but you're a bridge between the outfield and your pitcher and your catcher. And I just feel like he's that guy. Every time I looked around, he was the guy who was having conversations with different players. I feel like he's going to help to coach up Vaughn Grissom? Should he be selected as the guy to replace Dansby? It should, Ozzie be at second base and Dansby is going to be replaced by Vaughn. I feel like he's just that guy who's going to be the one who, if he bounces back at the plate, we know what he can do at second base, but can you imagine if Ozzie Albies goes back to form? Because he was trending in a great direction too before that injury sidelined him. And then, like you said, he returns and we're like, oh my God. And all of a sudden, just as much as he streaked, it's like, dang, he's done again with that pinky finger. So yeah, I'm still going to stick with Ozzie Albies as my guy who, if he comes back and bounces back, man, everybody better look out for the Braves.
Absolutely, and I'm with you on that with Ozzie, right? I can't argue against that. That'll be my pick as well, because when you think about we already, and I took Ronald Acuna out of that conversation as well. You know what I mean? So when you think about the other two guys and Mike Soroka and Eddie Rosario, I don't know what I'm gonna get from Eddie Rosario. Like, who knows what Eddie Rosario probably don't even know what he's gonna get from himself. So, but I think, and with Mike Soroka, I don't think that's too big of a deal, because you got your four guys already, essentially. So, and then you got Ian Anderson, who's proved it. You know what I mean? So he has some
Elder who's looking to make some
Elder's
noise
looking
too.
good. So it's like, if Soroka come back, who was potentially looking like an ace T, that's just cherry on the top. That's just extra butter at the movies, like on your popcorn. You know what I mean? So I'm not really looking for him to have a bounce back year, so to speak. But I think Ozzie, if Ozzie has that year T, we're going to be looking at a team that's going to be right there playing in the fall for the big one again.
Indeed. Like, and I want to co-sign on what you just said about Mike Soroka. That really would be the most incredible bonus. Whatever he does, Jarvis, if he stays in the majors somehow, because Chipper Jones was talking to our guys, Steak Shapiro and Sandra Golden today, and he was just saying the same thing, like he's intrigued because he wants to see, because nobody knows. So I just wanted to co-sign and agree with you on that, Mike Soroka. Like, whatever we get out of him, if the Braves get anything out of him in the majors, that's going to be just icing on the cake.
Absolutely. And it's going to be, and for him too, as an individual, because like to have that happen twice, like it's so freakish. Like, it is so freakish to happen like that. So it's not too many people he can lean on that have gone through that. So hopefully he can get through it. And what better team to do it for than the Atlanta Braves? How about that? and speaking of Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons. I want to touch on this because I thought it was kind of interesting, because we kind of to go back to kind of like when Dan Quinn lost Kyle Shanahan and he ended up hiring Steve Sarkisian as his offensive coordinator. A lot of people look back after the fact. Now, when Sark was hired before, he had some good, saw some good offenses in college and everything. He thought he'd be able to make a transition. Obviously, that didn't necessarily work out too tough. Right. And so, and then after Steve Sarkisian, he went on to Dirk Cutter. And then we all know how that worked out. So, you have some experience from covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day. So, we'll get to that on another day as far as those stories, if you can reveal them. But I think my point is that, like, with this Ryan Nielsen hire by Arthur Smith, I really wholeheartedly believe that Ryan Nielsen has to make Arthur Smith look like he made the right decision in year one, because when you look at what he's coming from, his pedigree, he's defensive lineman centric, like as a defense coordinator, I don't know how much time he's going to have to work with those guys specifically. But when you think about the downfall of the previous regime and hiring assistants, like I really feel like Dean Pease, if he wanted to, he was up for it. I really feel like he was going to get this thing turned around. So when you lose a guy like that, and you start to build on certain things, I really feel like Nielsen is going to he's not starting from scratch, but he's really going to have to come in here ready to work and prove in year one that he was the right guy.
Right. And he said he doesn't believe he's starting from scratch either. He doesn't feel like this is a rebuild. He feels like there are some pieces in place as well. And you know what I thought about from earlier today, that, we got the announcement, little news out of the NFC South. in terms of all of the shakeups. I think we were just talking about that the last couple of days, all of those
Yeah.
shakeups that make the Buccaneers the question mark. We talked about it yesterday. So
Yeah.
they go out and they hire themselves an OC, after firing Byron Leftwich, they go for a guy, Canales, out from the Seahawks. And you think to yourself, like, okay, Todd Bowles, we really hope this works out for you because you are on. You're skating on. Yeah, that's your work. That's a perfect way to say it. It better work out for you, bro, because you're skating on some seriously thin ice. Because now you've quote unquote cleaned house. They've cleaned shop for you. You're starting from scratch, but you're not going to get an exactly clean build. Like you're not expected to necessarily go to the Super Bowl with the departure of Tom Brady, but you are still expected to compete in a division that's up for grabs. When I look at Ryan Nielsen, I feel like that's not such a gamble. And one of the reasons is because Arthur Smith knows what fits him. He knows what's going to fit his scheme. He may not have known Ryan Nielsen personally because a number of his coaching staff members are coaches, coordinators whom he has coached with before. But he had the good fortune of two things. Number one, getting a cosign from Terry Fontenot. And number two, you've at least seen what he's able to do in the division. So by his work with the Saints. So my thing is, I think the fit is going to be huge because if you have, to me, Jarvis, the philosophy and it's consistent, you're on the same page, that's half the battle, especially when now you can go and get the players who can actually fit into that philosophy. And I do believe that was one of the things that I liked about what they did, which is they got him right before, as I like to call it, the collegiate Pro Bowl started with the Senior Bowl and the East West Shrine Bowl. That way they were able to split their team and send some people here and there, but ultimately they were able to have him in place to say, okay, we already got the philosophy in check. We already know what you're able to do. We know you got a good eye. Let's go out there and let's find some talent.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right? It's cool. It's definitely some exit and old piece that matters in the NFL, but it is definitely about the Jims and the Joes and guys who put their hands in the dirt and guys who drop into coverage on the down in and out basis. That's what it's all about. Now, speaking of dialing in, how about this? If you trying to figure out, All-Star game, but getting ready to come up, or you want to bet on some things, how about this? How about you go to FanDuel, because this is our new sports book betting partner. Why don't you go check those guys out? They got for all new customers, they got some good stuff for you. They got a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting on? We're sitting up here trying to figure out what's the over-under for this game and what's the over-under for that particular game. Like, is Trae Young going to make 4 threes or he going to make 3 threes? We're going to talk about how they doing all that talking and they ain't saying nothing next. But, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel because at least you can make some money off the Hawks if you're not going to enjoy watching them on a nightly basis. So here's what I want you to do. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet for up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, Jarvis, you may be able to go to FanDuel as well because FanDuel can probably guess better than you, me, and everybody else affiliated with the NBA as to what the Hawks will do with the last 23 games of this season. I told you yesterday that I was super concerned about this game, and I was not at all convinced that they were going to go in it. I gave you my guys. I was like, Jalen Brunson out there hitting 40 on the Nets Monday. I don't think Brun's going to slow that down. Like oh goodness, Sheree says on the Real Housewives show, who's going to stop me, boo? Who's going to check me?
Who's going to check me, boo?
Yeah, I was waiting on who the boo was that was going to check him, and that dude never showed up last night. He just didn't.
He's still waiting.
Randle was like, is there such a thing as
hold on. You're being disrespectful right now.
Okay.
You're being disrespectful. Fine. Mr. Randall. Mr. Randall.
Because I was going to call him Jubo because he was looking like Jubo out there.
Yes, I like that better. Let's go with that. Jubo.
Yes, it was absolutely scary. And the reason we can say that is because the Hawks put that out there. Particularly, Trae Young put that out there Monday after the horrific loss to the last place team in the East on Monday evening. He said that they understood that they could score on anybody, they being the Hawks.
Yeah.
But that if they allowed other teams to score on them, then it was a moot point. They knew they had to play defense. So you get in that game last night, 20-6. And Jarvis, I'm not talking about deep in the first quarter, by the way. I'm talking about 20 points before the first time out, which is typically, like a TV type timeout, typically around that 8th minute or whatever. You were already down 20-6. This team led wire to wire, and you have now stacked 8 straight quarters that you have not led. So why couldn't the Hawks, Jarvis, if you dare to try to postulate and ponder an answer, why couldn't they just show improvement? Improvement last night. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. 122-101 doesn't even tell the story. Why, Jarvis? Why?
You know why, T? Because it's not enough guys in that locker room with this right here. It's not enough of them in that locker room. The one thing about Jubo, like he might not be. Some people might look at him saying that he was not flunked out, but was a bust, and he had to go to another team to kind of reinvent himself and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But I look at it like this, man. One thing that you're gonna get from Jubo is he gonna come out to play. Yes. He's played in every game this season. Yes. T over 60 games was 66 games. 66 games. And he's played in every last one of them. His counterpart, the guy, John Collins, he's probably on pace to play in a little bit over 50.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, he might make 60 games. He might make 60 games by the end of this season. So when you think about, like, just the makeup of this team, right? Like, a lot of people talking about, like, the doesn't fit. The roster build, right? The roster makeup is different. I think it's different, not necessarily because of, this guy can't shoot that three or this guy can't play defense. It's just about, you ain't got enough guys with here. This right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, I'm leaning towards, Trae being the main culprit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, like, where is it? Like, where is it? Like, and it's not like, and reason why I'm leaning towards him, T, is because I've seen it before.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like, we've seen it. And when they went on the run to the Eastern Conference Finals, we saw what type of heart this dude has.
Exactly.
Like, to go up in Madison Square Garden and say, you know what? Oh, bring on all the booze. Bring on all that. Where's that dude? Yeah. Where's that dude? Like, I need to see that dude, T. I know we, talked about, what needs to happen. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. But, like, I really feel like Trae is number one on my list. Like, I need that dude.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to stop thinking. Stop trying to do whatever you're trying
to do.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever it is, T, like, he needs to just focus in and lock in and be that dude that took this team to the Eastern Conference Finals, because I still believe it's there. I'm not saying that it's not there, but I know it's there. It's just something hasn't quite clicked for him to get to being that person. And maybe it's a coach that may need to unlock it, or maybe it's I don't know, the makeup of the roster, or certain guys not being in the locker room anymore. I don't know, whatever needs to be done to unlock that dude, but that dude needs to be unlocked soon.
Yeah. Can I say all of the above? All of what you just said? I think, if we're keeping it real, because if we're just focused on him, and listen, guys, Jarvis and I have over a week and a half to break the Hawks all the way down. And we'll probably touch on them every week leading up to their return when they play the Cleveland Cavaliers at home next Friday, because, of course, they're going on the All-Star break. So, no, I think you're absolutely right. You don't have heart and then just not have heart. And he's always, my nickname has always been, for him, a little scrappy. Because I always felt like he was the little guy who had the chip on his shoulder, who was always whispering in his own ear.
Always had to prove himself, all that stuff. Yeah.
I got to prove myself again, because these haters, they don't believe me. Like, he seems like that guy. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because, hey, whatever motivates you. However, I do believe on some level, if we're being honest, I don't feel like he's angry like it seemed like he was with Lloyd Pierce, or at least that's what the reports say. But I feel like he's at a minimum tapped out on Nate McMillan, and everybody right now is kind of following that lead almost. It really felt like, looking at it in person, Jarvis, it was like the Hawks were moving. If you've ever driven a manual car, what is it? Gear 1 is your low gear and gear 5 is your high. It really felt like the Hawks were in first gear. And it felt like the Knicks were in fifth gear. And it felt like the Knicks kept saying to themselves, but we can't even drop down to fourth or third gear. Not like, even when the Hawks got it down to 11 points, you could see the Knicks were like, no, we can't allow this to happen. Why is that important? Because like you said, your heart tells you, oh my goodness, we have an opportunity here. We can go up 3-1 and win this season series. We came into this game 2.5 games behind the Knicks. We can get to 1.5 games behind them. And if it comes to a tiebreaker down the road, advantage Hawks. All of these things should have been playing in your mind. And we got these guys at home. We got them on the ropes. The only person who's even shaky right now
They were
is
trying to get a game back to you in the third quarter, T.
Exactly.
Like the Knicks came out so flat.
Yeah.
They only had like scored 6 points with like 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. I'm just like, what are y'all
the
doing?
Lead from 22 at that time down to 11.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was like the Hawks immediately took their feet off the gas, almost like they assumed that the Knicks were just going to lay down and die. Now. They laid down. Yeah, we're good. Like, oh, okay, we're about to get back in this thing. And then the Knicks took a timeout, and whatever that Tibbs said to him, it resonated.
No, Tibbs gonna say what needed to be said.
They came back out and they were just they put foots on necks, as the saying goes. So anyway, that was one thing that I thought about. And I think the other thing is this, which was kind of a question that you posed, and I kind of expanded it a little bit, because I agree with you. It's about that time. It's about that time for the come to Jesus moment for them to have over the break, the combo, the moment, the whatever. But who leads it? So it's a 3-part question for you real quick. If they should have it, which I think we both agree they should, is that player led? Which player leads it? And how does he lead or start off that conversation?
Wow. That is, yeah. I'm about to go on the couch now. I think I'm going to have to lay on the couch for this one.
Okay,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's how I feel like that meeting will probably go.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I can't say who I feel like. I know who I feel like should lead the convo, but I don't think he's going to lead the convo.
Okay. Well,
John Cobb's going to probably try to lead the convo, and he doesn't need to leave, because I feel like his bags are packed, and he's going to be gone in the offseason when they figure out a deal that makes sense. I feel like DeJounte should have this conversation.
Agreed.
And I feel like he should start off with like, man, look, man, like, here's the thing. Like, it is too much talent in this doggone room right now for us to be sitting middling around at 500. Like, I came from a team that's supposed to be competing for a lottery pick. We beat the dog mess out of them like we were supposed to, but we're not like them. We're not like them. We did what we were supposed to do on that particular game. And there was some moments there where it looked a little shaky too, T. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, like, at the end of the day, you got to say, not everybody don't go off, because you got Terry Rose against the Hornets. Terry Rozier went off. Gordon Hayward went off. PJ Washington went off. I'm just like, everybody can't go off. NBA, it happens. One dude gonna probably go off. That's how you got guys that you ain't never heard of averaging 25 points a game, because somebody got to score, right? Yeah. But it can't be night in and night out. Everybody going off. Just like you mentioned, Jalen Brunson. RJ Barrett was like 0 for 5 to start the game from 3. And y'all sitting up there, he still end up going off and having a good game, because guess what? It's Free Willy. The first 5 minutes of the game, I thought it was a layup line. I was like, what is going on out here? Like, it's so easy to get into the paint, lay the ball up. I'm just like what is the mindset? Like, what's the mindset? What do we want to look like to these last 20 some odd games? Like, that was the question I would hope DeJounte Murray would ask in that room. What do we want to do? Mm-hmm. Do we want to lay down, or do we want to fight? Because at the end of the day, like, it's about want to. At the end of the day, I know people laugh at that trying to simplify like that, but that's just exactly what it is.
Oh yeah,
we know your capabilities. We've seen it. We've seen you get with certain teams in the league. So I think right now, I think DeJounte should lead it, and he should start off with saying, "Hey, what y'all want to do?" Because at the end of the day, DeJounte can get up out of here after next year. So, what y'all want to do?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It should be a come to Jesus conversation. It should be DeJounte, and it should be straight no chaser. And everybody should just leave their little feelings at the door. Don't get your little feelings hurt if somehow you get called to the mat or what have you. We're not like DJM is not a lay down and die type of dude, and neither should the rest of this team, because like you said, as constructed, this is the team you have for the next 23 games. that coach on the sideline, probably going to have him for the next 23 games. So
Yep.
you got to make the decision of who you want to be and then stick to that team, Jekyll or Hyde. I don't care. Stick to the Jekyll or stick to the Hyde for the rest of this season. So on Locked On Sports Today, I can only imagine that they are probably talking about the conundrums at the All-Star break as well. Probably not just talking about the Hawks, probably talking about the Lakers and all sorts of teams in the NBA who have a make or break situation that they're coming to when they get back here next week. So if you want to hear their reaction to what happened across the association last night, check out Locked On Sports Today. Don't forget that after you go to ATL Day Ones or stop by ATL Day Ones, next up is YouTube for Locked On Sports Today. And just like we're about to take you guys into For the Culture, they take you into their take of the day. Who knows? Maybe they'll be giving you guys their reaction to the hilarious celebration that was the Chiefs Super Bowl celebration parade. Again, that's Locked On Sports Today. Be sure to check them out.
And make sure you check out Locked On Sports Atlanta like you're doing right now. If you are doing that right now, listening, watching, and sometimes judging, I see y'all comments. I need you to doggone go ahead and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. And once you hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification so you can get the notification once we drop this heat. You got it right there in your hand, in the palm of your hand. Or if you want to watch us on TV, Roku, Amazon Fire. We got all that going on right now. We popping right now. Go ahead and help us get to 6,000 subscribers. We on our way right there with you. Or, you can get ran over if you don't want to get a part of it. All right. Anyway, T, this is For the Culture. This is intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. Sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, as I was just doing right then and there. And today is no different, T. One thing that I've always appreciated about nowadays, as far as what HBCUs, is the fact that they just have so much more access to stuff than we did when we were in college. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the facts. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I always appreciated that. And I think this one probably is probably even more cool because Slim and Huskies. I don't know if you ever had that pizza before. Have you had Slim and Huskies before?
No, when you sent the article, I was like, oh my God, I pass by that place at least 3 times a week because they're down the street from my house.
It's so amazing. You need to stop. Like, the next time you see that sign, stop in there because that is it is amazing because like I was just like you probably about a year or so ago because it was, a lot of people that I work with and everything, they were saying like, hey, you need to try Slim and Husky. And when I got my mouth on it, T, let me go a little pause real quick. Yeah, when I put that thing, when I ate it, it was absolutely amazing. And now the Morehouse Tigers, they're gonna be able to be able to partake as well because they just opened on campus at Morehouse College. So I think that is so cool for them to be able to have access to a local business, African Black owned. And being on the HBCU campus, like that is just so cool. Right behind Pink and Cold with Slutty Vegan on Georgia Tech's campus. Excuse me.
Yes. And I don't doubt that maybe she'll be on her alma mater's campus at some point in the not so distant future.
It makes sense, right?
Atlanta, of course. Yeah, exactly. That only makes sense. But I think that you make a great point because having Slim and Huskies on that campus, and this is just me kind of imagining what it's going to be down the road. I think that that's an opportunity for those students to also see that entrepreneurship, right? And they're also able to see the community service aspect of it because I'm sure there's going to be a give back of some sort, even if it's just some students are able to get jobs that may need a few extra dollars in their pocket to help them to stay in school. That could be an aspect of it. Or it could be just the give back to the community of who knows, maybe proceeds go back to the university, or maybe they're just saying, hey, we're going to be ensconced in this West End community, and this is just our base. Although, like I said, it's already kind of in the West End space because I have to pass by it at least 3 times a week. So yeah, that's pretty exciting for them. And like you said, although sometimes I get a little FOMO because I'm like, dang, y'all got all these upgrades. Like, Xavier, sure you would say the same at Albany State. I'm sure Morehouse men are looking like, what?
Immaculate, T. It's immaculate down there now.
Yeah.
Like, what was this stuff when I was back there?
Exactly.
Shoot, man.
Right. But you got to evolve, you got to elevate.
Indeed,
And I
yes.
love the fact that Slim and Huskies is looking to be a part of the continued elevation of not just Morehouse, but really the AU Center, because obviously the students at Spelman and Clark and Morris Brown and the like,
Yeah,
they'll
access
all
to
have the
things, yes.
opportunity to access it. So pretty cool stuff.
It is super, super cool. We appreciate you guys for being part of the elevation process for ATL Day Ones and making us your first listen of the day. Why don't you stop by Locked On Sports today and make them your second listen? They partake in the foolishness, but not as much as we do. But, they partake in the national foolishness to see what's going on with the take of the day. You can find them wherever you find this podcast, wherever you download the bad boy, and they're on YouTube as well. But, this is the week of love, T, and we know we do this every day, but I think it means a little bit more this week because, hey, everybody needs a little love in their lives. So why don't you go ahead and share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.